Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the True Sweet Hide podcast. This is Annette, the host, and I am. Thank you so much for tuning in for another week. I have such amazing guests every time I do a recording or an interview. It's just like I get so excited. So today, though, we have Roy Samuelson. Oh gosh, he's amazing. He's an award-winning Hollywood voice over artist. He's done over 600 film and TV shows. But the one thing that I really love, besides the fact that he's done such amazing work that you guys, I know you've heard of, but we're not talking about that. We are talking about his passion to provide audio description programming for the blind and low vision audiences. And I've never met anybody who does that. I'm sure they're out there and they do, they do this work, but we don't really see what's going on behind the scenes. So to have Roy on here to talk about that, I'm truly honored. So thank you so much, Roy, for wanting to be on here, for wanting to share your story and your mission in the next level of your work. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Annette. I'm honored to be here. Can't wait.
I'm so excited. So you do amazing work, but why did you decide to choose to provide this service for the blind and low vision audiences? It's such important work, but why did you choose to do that?
It's work that's part of my voiceover career. So initially, I started off doing commercials or video games or animation, even some audiobooks in narration. And when the opportunity came to do audio description as a narrator, it really checked a lot of the boxes that I love about voiceover. There's a real nuance to the performance, and my goal is to make sure that the audience is immersed in the story. I don't want to stand out as a narrator, so trying to find that balance. There's also a lot of timing cues that are technical and different approaches specifically to this kind of voiceover work that I just lit up, Annette. It was like the first time I auditioned for this work, I stayed up almost the whole night after the audition. And not because I wonder if I got it or not, but because I had discovered this new thing that just was so exciting and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And luckily, I had some opportunities to work on some series and TV shows, and I would go into a studio and record it and have a really great experience and then go home. And then maybe about 2 years ago, I started meeting some blind audience members that had heard me and had connected on social media. And I was like, oh, people hear this? And it's like, yeah, almost 30 million blind and low vision Americans have access to audio description, specifically because some of the streaming services that came out and some of the other things. And so I formed a real friendship with my friend Kevin, and he was a anchor to me. He was my leader. He taught me, and he shared with me what his experience was like as an audio description audience member, and it changed my performance for the better. I can talk for hours, as you can see. I should stop.
No, that's such a beautiful thing. Oh my gosh, it changed you, and you enjoy it, and that's what's fascinating, because sometimes people get caught up in one specific thing they do, but then you were given this opportunity and you went for it and you love it. So that's really, we don't think about stuff like that. We have a mutual friend, for you guys that are listening, Maxwell Ivy. He's the blind blogger, and we don't give credit to people. I think we take advantage of the things that we have, and so you meet other people who don't have the same advantages, and then they turn it into something positive and they continue life, whereas we would probably sit back and feel sorry for ourselves. And it's just such an amazing thing to see and to meet people who are so positive about it and just living life. So I really appreciate what you do. How did you get started in the career you're on?
I think going back to Kevin, I'm a sighted narrator, and as I learned more from Kevin, who's been blind since birth, I found that there were a lot of biases that I was bringing into the conversation simply by being a sighted person, because I'm coming from this perspective. And he was coming from his perspective. So being able to understand a little bit better and kind of open up a little more to stepping into that unfamiliar space for me. The unfamiliar space meaning that, as you had said, I'm a sighted narrator, so I'm bringing that that's been what I'm familiar with, and by stepping into that conversation with Kevin, and by stepping into the world of the work of audio description, the work of audio description was new and uncharted to me. And so it was taking that risk of going outside of my comfort zone. And that's, you can hear that there's a bird in the background just saying, I agree, that going into that uncharted space is a risk. And there's something about that kind of calculated risk, but it is a risk stepping in that really makes a difference.
Wow. It's so fascinating to me to just learn all about this. Did you ever think you were going to grow up to be a voiceover artist?
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Yes, I did. And I think that some of the worst recordings I've ever done were as a kid recording into a cassette recorder, pretending to be some sort of Mr. Rogers type character called the New York Ghost, and it was a terrible accent. I really wish I had it now, just because of the train wreck that it was. But it was something that I didn't see as a career really, but I really enjoyed it, and I had some experiences young working for a theme park attraction for Disney called the Great Movie Ride, which basically was like live audio description. It was on mic, it was timed cues, and I'd point out things that were happening through this ride that went through different movie scenes. And doing that same show over and over again, it's like, oh, what can I do different? And so I started playing and finding out, what if I did it this way, or what if I tried this, or what if the audience, how does the audience react if I try it this delivery? So it was kind of like, if you remember the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, that it's those seemingly little tiny incremental steps that I could adjust and play with and get instant feedback. So that's kind of where it started, I guess.
How fun. So did you, I know with people that don't live in California and they hear people that live there, oh, you live in Hollywood and you get to meet famous people. Do you currently reside in California? Did you move there? Or do you just do this from anywhere in the world?
I live in Los Angeles, and this work is done, especially now where we are,
Hmm.
most of this work can be done remotely. And a lot of companies have made adjustments to make sure that their clients, the movie properties, the TV properties are protected, as far as access, sharing,
Hmm.
as well as the workflow. I do have a professional studio that I work out of remotely. So with a good internet connection, with the right training, and with the right equipment, this is something that can be done anywhere. One of the things that's so great about the technology is that um, when it comes to audio description, it was created by blind people for blind people. So there's a real sense of, at least on the internet, one of the quotes that I've seen a lot that really rings true to how I try to approach it is nothing about us without us. That this work can be done, and I think needs to be done by paid blind professionals, whether it's a narrator or engineer who's got training in engineering, or even quality control, making sure that the work, once it's either in the process or once it's completed, is helped, made better by the contributions of blind people. And that's different than just a sighted person putting on a blindfold for an hour and a half during a movie.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Wow,
to answer your question, it can be anywhere.
that's wonderful. This certainly has changed a lot of things, but I'm glad to see that work can still be done for the most part. That it can be done from anywhere and not completely put everything to a halt. Especially with for things like this, it is so important to continue to provide as much as we can to other people. So that's really great to hear. Where do you see this going in the next 5 years?
That's a great question. Let's kind of piggyback on what we were just talking about. That with this new remote work, and also with a lot of Hollywood production being shut down, that one of the strange benefits is that a lot of archive titles, titles that a lot of sighted people are familiar with, are now being having audio description added to it. So, for example, Disney Plus launched about a year ago with almost all of their titles, the titles that most of us grew up with audio description. And so the importance here is that our blind audiences can now connect with sighted audiences in a way that allows them to laugh at the same time during a movie. That connection, whether it's talking about, oh, did you see that part where, oh my gosh, that was so funny, that there's not that extra barrier of, oh, well, in this scene, such and such happened, and then this happened. It kind of interrupts the flow of the conversation. That audio description is a way for our audiences to connect in a way that helps. So with the with the archive titles like Disney and with other companies going back into their vault, their library titles, and adding audio description because people want it. Now we're getting more access, and that means that people are becoming more familiar with the process, and that awareness, that education of, oh, we can do audio description. I believe that, to answer your question, this 5 years from now, that this becomes much more uh, a part of the conversation when it comes to entertainment. If you think about closed captioning and how deaf people are able to enjoy movies and TV shows, that's much more common in the conversation culturally because closed captioning has been spoken up for. Our disability communities have said we demand this and we want it, and it's resulted in action. And I can't help but think that our blind audiences are definitely on the same page. So the two things that I think are happening in the future are, especially with technology, being able to have more access to audio description, and at the same time that audio description is of a high quality and excellence that is in parity with our sighted audiences.
Wow. No, I like that, and I hope that it goes. I hope that it works out that way because
Me too.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So, where do you see yourself personally in the next 5 years, or the next 5 years? Because you've already done, and we mentioned this in the beginning, over 600 film and TV shows, and you obviously love that. So, what do you foresee? Do you foresee any a change, or what would you like to see happen?
I love doing narration. I really have fun with it. And at the same time, there's another joy that I've found. And when I think back in my working experience outside of voiceover, I was the assistant at a temp job, and I'd help answer phones or send emails or, put together schedules. And there were certain parts of that I was really bad at. The parts that I was really good at was being a support team. I loved helping make sure that the person I was working for represented that she was able to focus on what she wanted. And I think that there's a comparison in where I'm headed now as far as the uh, quality and excellence with audio description, in that I'm kind of put into a place as a sighted person where blind people have some very specific requests and demands that they want met. And also being where I am, and I'm a part of the Television Academy, the Primetime Emmys. There's a Performers Peer Group Executive Committee that I've been a member of for 5 years, and so I've been able to connect with producers and other decision makers who make movies or TV shows and talk with them about, do you know about audio description? And inevitably, if they don't, they lean in and they're like, wait, what? My movie has this? I made a movie for whatever network, and you mean mine has it? Or uh, tell me more. That there's a real sense of curiosity and oh wow, there's something there. And at the same time, these streaming companies that are popping up, whether it's Disney Plus or Netflix or Amazon or Peacock or even Apple TV Plus. I know I'm forgetting some because there's 47, but the uh, the streaming companies are opting in to have this. So I think my role is being the assistant and the facilitator and helping bridge that gap between our demands of the audio description audiences and those companies that genuinely want to hear back and get the feedback of what the audiences want. And hopefully that, it's easy to make assumptions. It's like, oh, well, we want more audio description, so let's cut as many corners as we can and get as much as we can. Well, that is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that you can have a lot of quantity and you can also have high quality. That there's some really well done movies that have, a budget of up to $100 million. Those movies need to have audio description with a quality comparison to the sighted audiences. So there's a lot of different angles to approach this, and I feel like I'm kind of getting into the weeds just by answering your question, but I really see myself as a facilitator between the entertainment industry and our blind audiences. That's where I feel really comfortable.
I appreciate that because people don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and so you're like their advocate, and you have this important role which is so needed, obviously, because now you can be that person to bridge that gap and help explain why it's needed and what needs to be done. So wow, I mean, that's amazing. Good for you.
Thanks for saying that. And I want to really emphasize that I'm not alone here. That there are many people and there are many organizations on all aspects of audio description that are really doing an incredible job. And I want to make sure that I'm amplifying their voices the best I can.
That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see how this evolves, and just it's such a beautiful thing that we take for granted, that we don't even realize. And so I'm never going to be able to watch TV the same. I'm going to be like, hey, are they going to do that too? Because I'm an Amazon, Hulu, Netflix person.
Oh, there we go.
I hope that they're all doing the same thing because it'll make me love it even more and appreciate it even more. Wow.
And on that note, I got to say, as a sighted person, there's some shows, like I'm thinking on Netflix, there's a series called Dark that has multiple characters in different time zones and different relationships, that the audio description helps sighted people kind of keep track of who's who and what's what. So it's like that extra element that brings the story even more enriched. So there's it's a really exciting time.
I'm excited. Now I'm going to keep up with this because I can't wait to see what happens next. And I can't wait to see what other projects you're going to be working on too. So congratulations on all of your successes and for being the advocate for this, because wow, I know I learned something new today, and for everyone that's listening, I'm not sure if you knew, but oh my gosh, this is huge, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So yes, congratulations. Where can people find you? Because you're doing amazing things, and we all need to follow you.
I'm on Twitter at Roy Samuelson. There's for those interested in audio description, there's a Facebook group called Audio Description Discussion, and it's run by Dane and Serena, and it's got more than a few hundred decision makers in audio description, both talents like myself, writers, audience members, of course, and also decision makers. That there's been a lot of activity there where companies say, what do you want described? And audiences will say, I want this show described. And 3-4 weeks later, it's described. So there's something special about that group. I'm also on working with a new firm that is called kevinsprocess.com. and it's based on my friend Kevin, who passed away last month. And it's in honor of his efforts and his legacy to make sure that that continues. And it's about quality and excellence in this work. That audiences don't deserve shortcuts; they deserve the best. And to make sure that audiences know how to speak up and where to speak up, and make sure that they're getting what they want when it comes to quality and excellence in this work. You can also
Oh,
use hashtags audio description, blind people watch movies, blind people watch TV shows, and of course, hashtag Kevin's Process. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Roy Samuelson as well.
wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's it. That's beautiful. Gosh. Thank you so much. I'm so intrigued right now. I'm just like,
Great.
wow.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is very exciting. It's something we don't ever think about and we need to know. And I'm so glad that you're here to share it. So now everyone who's listening can go, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, now I'm going to go check because and I'm going to go stand for this, this project and yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Roy. I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the future. I can't wait to see where this is going to go in the future. And I wish you all the best. I will be following you to see your successes. And I'm just so excited.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's really been fun to talk with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to the Truths We Hide podcast, created and founded by your host, Annette, the founder of A Wild Ride Call Life. Also, a big thank you to all of our sponsors for each and every episode that is aired. We have so much support from them and all of our listeners. You can find more information at www.awildridecalllife.com.